All right, so welcome. I'm Madeline Colley, they, them pronouns, and you are here for my voice acting for you and your games uh, talk for the Sprigs and Kindling Retreat online 2025. Yay! And thanks very much to Amanda Mullins, who's put this whole incredible endeavor together. Holy crap, amazing. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has participated in this retreat so far and has done the amazing webinars and games that we've seen throughout this whole week and weekend that's coming up as well. So yeah, again, thank you very much, Amanda, for providing us with these opportunities. My God. And I hear the movie nights have been like incredible. So I have not been able to participate in a single one, but damn. Like somebody said that they'd seen more movies in the last few days that they've seen in their entire life or something like that. What was the quote?
That was Kevin. Kevin said that he's seen more horror movies in the last 3 days than he's seen in his whole life, or maybe it was not his
think
whole
it was the
life,
last
but
3 years, but
it
yeah.
was, yeah,
That
last three
makes,
years.
yeah, that hey, I mean, like, that's amazing. So like, like add to the whole library of media touchstones that he could use for later. It's all great. And I'll touch upon that as like, as something you can use for resourcing later on for voice acting, as a matter of fact. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Sharing screen is good. Do 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 do. And sharing sound just in case I share anything with sound. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Yeah, okay, great. All right, and don't feel free and speak up. I mean, like, there's a few of us here. If anybody else comes in, then like, we'll just go ahead and welcome them in. Great, fantastic. And if you have any questions, like, when things come up, please just feel free and go ahead and unmute and ask. All right. We'll have an interactive part of this as well, like, within the talk, and if there's time, then we'll have some playtime and then some time for Q&A for me to go back and go over some of the bits that I'm not going to go into detail on, okay, just in case anybody has any further questions on that. All right, so voice acting with you for you and your games. All right, so let me see. Do 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 do. Okay. Now, the thing about Canva is it's like I don't really know how this advances, which is fantastic. Oh my gosh, amazing. Ah, okay, great. There we go. All right, introduction. So going over the bits and pieces of this whole thing. Who the hell am I? Voice acting bits and pieces, vocal technique, applying the voice acting to your games, exercises to try, suggestions for your practice, and playtime. Hopefully we'll have time for that, as well as Q&A. All right, so real quick. Who the hell am I? Mad C. Turley, they, them pronouns, aka Madeline Colley online. I'm a player and keeper of The Between, Trophy, Brindlewood Bay, and various other Indian story games. I'm also a writer. I've done Brindlewood Bay Mystery for the Nephews in Peril supplement for the Brindlewood Bay Kickstarter, as well as writing my own Between mastermind that has appeared in the Sprigs and Kindling Volume 3. Plug. Yay! And currently in play testing on 2 series on my YouTube channel. And then I've written a trophy incursion for my itch page based on the Briar Rose fairy tale. I am also a YouTube hobbyist, as I've mentioned, and I do edit my own videos very lightly. So I produce the playthrough videos that appear on my channel for the most part. And finally, I am a voice actor. I have I've been heard, excuse me, on the Silt Verses, like, on an episode, as well as an episode of the Violet Hour Media Hollow, which is a sci-fi dystopian drama. And then I have done the voiceover for the Manishtana Kickstarter video as well. And then I've also been interviewed and also been heard on some podcast actual plays. So that's who the hell I am. But one of the slides that I forgot to put in there was my tie-in to voice and voice acting. So way long ago in the distant past, my degree, my bachelor's degree is in music. There's actually a bee muse somewhere floating there in the past. So I have had a history of, you know, been training in voice. So my specific training is in voice performance. So I had to do a lot of operatic singing. I know it's weird. It's very strange. But I did get a lot of breath work training way back when. And I also had to take a lot of diction classes and like phonetics training for like learning how to pronounce things in different languages. Yay. So that was fun. And really, honestly, the only reason I was taking music training was because I wanted to make sure that I didn't hurt my voice in 5 years and that I could eventually learn to be the next Suzanne Vega, which I'm not, but I mean, like, it was just to have consistency and continuity, right? Yeah, that was weird. Anyway, and then going through my journey, I eventually found voice again when I found out about voiceover and voice acting, and I just started like, watching videos and then going to different voice sites and like learning getting their trainings from there. And then I actually did get some voiceover training to work on a demo reel that probably may or may not sound like me because yeah, I got COVID twice in the past few years. And yeah, so my voice has deepened considerably. But again, with voiceover training, I mean, it does emphasize certain things like, for technique as well as for certain things that you need to know for the business and all that sort of thing. So that's my background. Sorry for the rolling out of boring stuff. But anyway, all right. So, voice acting, the bits. You got your equipment. You got your microphone, your headphones, your audio interface, boom arm, cables, computer. All right. Um, there's so many different things that you can get for all of those. Um, I mean, I can go into deep dives into each of these things. I'm not going to right at the moment. Just reviewing all the bits that you should have, like if you're going to do this. Digital audio workstation, your DAW, for recording and rendering for, having the audio clips that you need if you're going to do voice acting for, for jobs, or if you're going to just have recordings available for podcasts or anything like that, if you're planning on doing games on podcasting. Space and sound buffers. So I don't know if you can hear it right now, but I have an air conditioner going on like nearby, and it's right outside of my booth, um, and it's in the window unit. So you want to have something in your space that will mitigate some of the sound that can be coming from ambient sources, whether it be outside, whether it be from a window, or even from your own space, like apartment or house, right? So you can record in your closet with the clothes around you. You can get a cheap tent frame and then put moving blankets all over it. Hint, hint, that's what I have. And then egg crate and foam glued to cardboard, which I have also done and probably still do. And then accessories to just make sure that there's no extraneous sound coming within your space, like a tablet to just have like your copy. Instead of hearing like riffling pages, you just like, slide, swipe on your tablet. And the second monitor is very helpful if you're going to be doing any kind of serious recording, whether video or audio. Okay, so those are the bits very quickly, like that I can think of off the top that you would need if you're going to do voice acting. The pieces, training. So do you have any particular training, even as small as like, just a few sessions or like, years worth, whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, like any little bit of training helps for voice acting, whether it be music, whether it be acting itself, whether it be movement. Movement, there's some indicators that, of course, like, how you hold your body is also helps your sound or hinders your sound as well. Research, like your own research, like have you done research into breath work, like how air moves in your body, like, being able to breathe not from your chest, but like down from your diaphragm. You knowing your instrument, knowing how your voice works, in your throat with your pharynx and like, through your nasal passages and your vocal folds and all that fun stuff. And then researching the specialty work involved with voice acting as a whole, stuff like audiobooks or anime or animation. Some of the vocal academies slash associations will have videos on this or information or articles about this sort of thing. So it pays to do some research and just kind of get to know like what's involved, even if it's like free resourcing, because there's a lot of information packed in such a small space. Technique, warm ups, like learning about warm ups for health and consistency, so you can do this for a long time. Practice for versatility, so getting to know your instrument and being able to do different things. Being able to, like, try different characters, being able to try different ways of using your voice. And then for authenticity, being able to convey emotion through your technique and being able to do that in such a way that you're not going to hurt yourself and be sustained for a possible, if not career, then at least to be able to do this for a very long time. All right. The business, like, they have like stuff for script analysis, like, being able to like read a side for an audition and be able to interpret it quickly, so enough to be able to say, okay, here we go. I'm going to be able to like read this off, and I'm going to be able to like, interpret a character or make a quick decision about what I'm going to do for this character and what kind of voice I'm going to give to it. And then auditioning, like what's involved in an auditioning process, or like whether it be online or in person. And then taking direction effectively. Like when you do get that audition, when you do get that part, what you need to do to give the customer what they want. They're paying you now to do the thing. Now you need to do it and take whatever direction, whatever uh, uh, character, whatever you know specs they need for the job effectively. So we'll be mainly talking about technique today and how we can apply that to your games as a player or a keeper. And if there's time, of course, then we will go over any other of this bits and pieces, in the Q&A, if you so choose. All right. So just let me know. Okay. So now we're going to touch upon technique, and this is based on um, the Laban efforts movement system. It's a vocabulary that Rudolf Laban had developed for dancers, and eventually actors started using it. It's a way to kind of shorthand um, movement for choreography, but it can be used to also like shorthand how to interpret things when you're reading a script, and also to kind of convey things using your voice as well. So human movement is broken down into four components, and each of these components is made up into two parts. So you have direction, spatial quality, which is direct or indirect. You've got weight, light or heavy. You've got timing, could you be sudden or sustained. And you've got flow, which is bound or free. So combinations of all these parts create the 8 efforts listed in the Laban efforts movement. So the 8 efforts are ring, press, flick, dab, glide, float, punch or thrust, and slash, right? So you combine the 4 components into these 8 efforts. So when you consider a character, whether it be reading a description or you just kind of think of a character in your mind, like maybe you see a face claim, or you see the character visual, you make determinations upon like some of these things, and then I'll go into more of the technique of what you look at in later slides. But just for these 8 efforts alone, you can make some pretty decent guesses of like what you're going to use for making that character. So if you're going to do a ringing voice, like indirect and heavy and sustained and bound, it's like, oh, I don't know what I need to do. I mean, just get that sense through it, right? Or a press, like somebody's going direct and heavy and being in your face, but sustained because they want to push their advantage. Or flick, just light, but also like touching upon things and almost being very focused, but yet not, and just being precise, but sharp, perhaps. And dab, it's like, okay, I'm going to just bounce from here to here. Oh, wait, no, I think I might, oh, you know, and then glide. Someone who is bound to the earth, but has this sustained freedom of lightness. And there's just kind of like, I think of it also as hovering when I think of gliding, right? I think of it as kind of moving through the space and just being very direct, but light and, well, possibly a bit posh, right? And then floating could be very fairy-like and just so, I'm not really sure exactly. Ah, and then I think you get the point with the punching and thrusting versus the slash. But I mean, again, if you're going to do punch and thrust in direct, it's more of a kind of like a in out kind of motion with your voice, and then a slash would be more direct, and then you're pressing your advantage again. Like so, again, like figuring out like where these direction slash spatial quality, the weight, the timing, and the flow work into your concept of a character, concept of the description, and whether you can spot where these things apply, right? Um, Next slide. Okay. So, other qualities to consider on top of the 8 efforts could be whether it's a more masc or femme voice that you're trying to convey, breathy or dry, age, like a young, a teen, middle aged, or old, nasal. So you kind of like have to know your instrument in this case, and like I'll go more into that a little bit later. So, like being able to throw your voice, like if you know you have a cold and you kind of know sort of how that feels, everything's kind of like stuck up here and you can't get it out. It's really like up in your nasal passages, and it's just like it almost hurts, but you don't want it to hurt because if it hurts, then you're causing yourself pain, and you really don't want to do that. Or throaty. I mean, like, oh, it's like really stuck down here. And again, if you're feeling any pain, then you want to make sure it's not stuck down here, but it's like it's in that space to be throaty. It's back and down. And then your regular voice, right? These are all things, like as I go through these are all things that are still using your normal voice, but you are adding these different textures, these different flavors, these different directions and spaces within your face and your body to convey, again, different emotions or different character uh, flavors, again. Small, medium, and large. And what I mean by that is like, what if you're creating a creature, as said in like one of my resources where I got some of this stuff from. What if you're conveying like you're an anthropomorphic field mouse, right? You're going to sound quite little, and you can't help it. Or you're very large because you're a great beast in the water. And then timing, in a different sense than the efforts, where you're very slowly talking because maybe you are being a tortoise. Or mid tempo, which you're speaking your normal tempo. Or very fast because it's like, oh my God, you're like so incredibly excited you can't help yourself. My damn. And then, of course, volume. You can do quiet, medium, and loud to make sure that you're not going to blow out your equipment. Just make sure that you know what's quiet and medium and loud that will not hurt your equipment or blow out your DAW and then like make it hot and unusable because you're clipping essentially for the recording. You'll be able to see that when you see waveforms and such. But if we want to get into that technical stuff, you can ask questions about that later. But another texture is friendly, impartial, regressive, like adding some flavor to your voice. Uh, Accents you can do a whole bunch of videos about. I'm not even going to get into it. We already know, and some of our games will definitely call for some accents, of course. So it really depends on what you'd like to do, and there are plenty of videos that are available on the internet for different kinds of accents if you really want to know. And perhaps they are accurate and maybe they are not, but it is really up to you, like how much research you would like to do for these accents. Um, Facial quirks. All right, when I talk about facial quirks, I'm talking about like, okay, so say you're creating a character and maybe you know that they only talk like maybe out of the corner of the mouth, like for some reason, right? Like maybe maybe they have a scar that just prevents them from like being able to mobilize like one side of the face. Or something has happened to them, unfortunately, like maybe like a stroke or something. But whatever it is, like there's a particular facial quirk that makes them speak in a certain way. Or like you can imagine some way that a scar or like being perhaps even um, like if you can imagine like a different kind of creature and how that would affect their speech, right? I remember embodying an NPC once that had gills. And that was an interesting thought. Like, like you're not really speaking out of your mouth, but you still have to convey that and you still have to speak out of your mouth. But how would I try to convey gills? Like, like speaking from a different place from my body. And I don't know whether the experiment was working, but I mean, it definitely did sound different. So, and I apologize for not looking at the chat. It's kind of difficult when I see some of the things. Let's see. Oh, okay. Cool. Oh, I can't even pronounce it. Newfoundler? Newfoundler?
Newfoundland.
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 Newfoundlander.
Newfoundland.
Newfoundland. Yeah.
There you go. There's no
See?
D's. Don't say the D's.
Amanda, can we
Newfoundland.
hear some Newfoundler?
Newfoundler.
Oh, to jump, you sure can, buddy.
Yes, it's so good. It's incredibly good. Oh my
Lord
gosh.
Tundra, this is some fun now, huh?
Will you invite me to one of those dinner parties they have?
Oh, you are. It's a kitchen party, and yes, absolutely.
Well, like, what would that sound like if you're inviting me to a kitchen party? What's the accent and the vocabulary?
Oh, you want to come down to the shed now?
That's almost sounds dirty, but we'll get into that later. Um, and pronunciation habits for the last part of this. So pronunciation habits, maybe there's a particular word that you pronounce differently. Just be aware of that. Quirks that appear for you may or may not appear for your character. I know that I say absolutely a lot. I know I do this, but it will creep up in my characters, and I know this, but I think I might make it a pronunciation quirk or a word quirk of one of my particular characters, just because I think it's cute, especially when she does it in her accent, because she is just so adorable. Absolutely. So, shit like that, right? Um, all right. So other things that you can take into consideration when you wrap up all the things, like 8 efforts and all the other stuff wasn't enough, right? You can think about doing like how much energy and intensity are you putting into a particular character without volume, right? You don't want to work on volume just yet. Like we're talking about, is your character dynamic? Is it somebody who's like, full of verve, like, is like, I mean, it just seems like they're like not only they're burning the candle at both ends, but like they never will burn out, or somebody that is just so laid back that they just like just take a chill, man. come on, you know, that sort of thing. Like what kind of energy do you want to give, right? Um, or do you have an uncomfortable, disturbing voice? And can you do that without strain? Can you do something where you're sinister? Where you might be perhaps a little unworldly or otherworldly and not hurt yourself in your throat? Do you know where that lies in your training and your vocal folds? Spontaneity. Whatever you can think of off the top of your head, like if you're given like 3 seconds to look at something and go, oh, I need to come up with a character, can you do that without even thinking about it? Whatever. And that kind of leads back into or leads into the archetypes, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But range. When I say know your highs and lows, know how high your voice goes. For guys, falsettos, like what kind of falsetto you have, and for women, yeah, know what kind of lows you have. We just watched Spaceballs for my son's 15th birthday on Tuesday, and it still makes me laugh hysterically when they go to rescue the princess and they hear, nobody knows what trouble I've seen. Nobody knows about Jesus. And and Barf says, she's a bass. And it's like, it still makes me laugh. But again, know your highs, know your lows, because again, that adds some flavor and texture to the characters that you can bring. But also know how consistently and how long you can sustain that, because that leads into the stamina endurance part of the discussion. Enunciation and diction. You can have the best otherworldly voice possible. You can have the best, fairy voice. You can have the best like sinister villain voice that you have. But if they can't understand a bloody thing that you're saying, it's useless. You want to be able to speak it clearly enough for the character that you convey your emotion, you convey the words, but it's not muddied in any way, whether it be recorded or speaking live. Vocal placement, again, it's something where if you know that you are an ugly crier, I am an ugly crier, and you get literally choked up when you cry, like I know that my voice feels like there's somebody driving a wedge into my throat and my nose gets all clogged up that I literally can't breathe after a few minutes of actually sobbing my eyes out. Know that you can't do that when you get emotional. Like you can't get that emotional when you act, when you vocally act, especially. So you have to know what it takes to be able to be emotional enough to convey that emotion, but not so vocally into it that you're going to shut down completely and you can't speak or sing. I have, when I did my music major, there were some songs that I picked simply on vibes. Like I would only want to do them because it's like, oh, I loved the fact that they were sad or they were about like ravens or because they were conveying like a particularly horrific, thing or whatever. And I remember like picturing myself being in the situation, seeing these visions of whatever it was that I was conveying and getting choked up because I was scared. Like I was bringing on the fear into my voice, which is bad because if you're trying to sing, you want to keep everything as open as possible and not have your breath hitch because you're frightened. So don't make that mistake. Right. So just again, know where your vocal placement is to be emotional enough and well to know your vocal placement to be able to convey that emotion. Authenticity. So bringing back to being emotional, knowing what that feels like in your body, knowing what emotions you can bring comfortably and sustainably that you're not going to hurt yourself and be able to still be truthful and authentic to the character, right? Emphasis. you can say a line pretty much many different ways, and it all depends on the emphasis of the words that you speak. So, if you have like a line as simple of, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. You can change nuance in your meaning. And it really depends on what kind of emphasis you put on certain words. And again, the textures that you put with them. Okay. So combining all of these things, oh my gosh, amazing. And then brings us all back to stamina and endurance. I mean, voice acting is not just being able to stand or sit to be able to just use your voice and then, like, speak into a microphone, right? It involves some physicality, especially if you're doing like a vocal acting for something like animation or anime. You may be told to do certain sounds for movement and effort, and you have to make those sounds. And sometimes the only way to make those sounds is to actually do the thing. So, like if you're running, like you're actually like running by the microphone, or if you're like lifting something, you're pretending to lift, and you still have to make the effort. And it's a very physical thing. You could be sweating your ass off after 3 hours of a recording session. And when you carry into your games, I don't know about you guys, but like when I've run some particularly either emotional or intense games, I have literally sweat because I'm just like, I'm in it. And I have embodied like, I don't know, 5 different NPCs while also trying to navigate the characters through whatever scenes that they're in. And it is very physical. It is incredibly physical. So, just recall that. And when I say about archetypes, archetypes are things that they say in voice acting to have in your back pocket, not stereotypes, not stereotypes of like, people misinterpreting like, what particular things are, what particular characters are, but archetypes like the snob, the villain, the hero, because you as a unique person have those particular voices within you, and you can take that archetype, your archetype of the hero, and change that up to be with any of these other different traits and efforts to be something else, to be a different kind of character on top of that. So always have some kind of archetype in your back pocket. Like, that this is your hero voice, always. Or this is my villain voice. And I'm going to build from those things, and I'm going to add one of these or all of these or some combination of these things to be able to texture and like flavor this archetype and make it something unique for the job, for the character, for the game, whatever the hell it is, right? And that's what you have in your back pocket. So you always have something to use. All right. Okay. Applying it already. Damn. Okay. So I'm sure if you're not already familiar, you've heard of Jason Cordova's 731 method. All right. It's a blog post. I have it in my resources slide. But he would say like he has 7 NPCs, locations, encounters prepared, like barely any session prep, but this is the way he does it. And I mean, it's very minimal, but it's really powerful. So 7 NPCs, locations, encounters with a motivation for each. Like, what do you plan on doing with each of these people, or what do they plan on doing, being in the game in this particular session for that particular time? Like, what's their drive? 3 sensory details about each of them, right? I mean, or like some kind of detail about them, like, you know, maybe they're in a 3-piece suit, or they have like an incredible like handlebar mustache, or oh, I remember there's one description. What was it? I think from the Coven even. The first time I saw the actual ran the Coven fully with one of the side characters, and one of the side characters actually had a detail saying a mustache that was an event. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And I had to think about it for a second. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I got you. um, and then one physical embodiment that could be done um, if called upon for this particular character. Like, do they have a lisp? Do they have, a limp that, can kind of convey or show, when you bring them into the scene. Tie in the 8 efforts with some of the other possible qualities vocally. So when you do this kind of prep in your games, like, try to use the 731 method, a variation of such, vocally by tying in the 8 efforts with some of the other qualities like of the immense grid. I know I gave you a lot. I am so sorry. We can go over any one of them if you want to. Um, Script analysis. So when I say script analysis, I mean, like, of course, for an audition or for a job, you will normally get like the sides, like, descriptors of the particular character or the scene, and then like a setup, and then like they want to have this particular character sound like this or this person, and you are here in this particular location doing this. And then you're to be able to convey this emotion for this character, or you're talking to your sister and you need to be able to say, this without saying it, or whatever the heck the direction is. For us, for the games, every threat, every mystery, every adventure, whatever it is, usually has some sort of key details about the person, about the side character, and quotes. Get some really good ideas from the quotes. And even if you don't get some good ideas about the quotes, you know what? I have been known to go off the rails for a particular side character. Like, that's not what they were built for. Yeah, it is. You know why? Because the players decided, I want to concentrate on that side character today. And I'm like, okay, sure. you know, this is the wonderful way that our players surprise us, and it's beautiful. But you as a player character, if you decide that you would like to take, say, a side character that you've seen and make that into a character yourself, or subvert it, turn it around, reverse it, add some texture to it, then you've made a unique PC of your own. Why not? Right? Face claim, fan casting, like maybe there's I don't know, maybe there's an actor, or maybe there's a character that you already know about that you're like, oh man, I can picture them so totally in this. How do you think, I mean, if you just saw the picture, how do you think that person sounds embodying that character? Like if you just saw the actor's picture and you just were trying to picture them in the part, or if you just saw a face claim, like you just saw a particular model, like, to be in that particular character cast that you're thinking of, like how do you think that person would convey them? Or if you've heard the actor and like you've seen their particular character bent on this, could you mimic them, give an impression of them, but not do that exactly? Do it in your unique voice. Like, don't try to do an impression of, I don't know, don't try to do John Wayne, or don't try to do Homelander, or whatever the heck it is, like whatever the heck you're trying to do. Just think of them and try to do your version of that if you really are hard up for any kind of ideas. But use the 8 efforts, use some of those textures and flavors in the charts, in the tables, and then kind of figure out how to make it your own. And then motivation. Characters. Your characters, whatever they are, whether they be in Trophy or any other game, have some sort of motivation, have some sort of drive. You can use that to help them find their own unique voice. And even NPCs and side characters are living their own lives within the game. I don't know about anybody else. I usually have them live their own lives in the game. All right. And you can use that. You can use whatever motivation you give to them to be able to give them voice, literally give them voice. What voice do you think they have with this particular motivation? I mean, I did Rory Bell from Limehouse Lurker, and he just wanted his wife's body back, but Jenny wasn't going to give it up. And I was trying to convey that desperation to the player. It's like, I just wanted her body back. That's all I want. But Jenny's not giving her up. Come on. How long do you need to keep a body? I don't care if you're trying to keep it from the cops. What the hell? That sort of thing. What kind of emotion, what kind of motivation are you trying to convey? How much texture, how much flavor can you give to your voice to show that? All right. So, any questions? I know I've given you a lot. I should have stopped after every slide. I apologize. God. Any questions so far? Go ahead and speak up. I'm free. I am open. We probably need a 5-minute break.
I've got a question or two. When you talked about injury, I was trying to think of an example, and the
Sure.
one that comes to mind first is if I think about the lead singer of AC/DC, Brian Johnson, he's basically wrecked his voice by doing that. Right?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's it's so hard, right? I mean, if he's been told to, or it's been kind of part of his shtick, his brand. I don't know. Some people are known for certain sounds, and it's unfortunate because then they feel really compelled to continue on with that at the detriment to their own health.
Yeah.
That's why I try not to if I go to extremes, if I do that throaty voice or
Hmm.
something, and I'm in here, deep within my throat, or if I'm hissing, or I'm trying to do some kind of grady kind of thing. I try to make sure that it stays. It's hard to explain because I'm not personally technically cognizant on all the different technical parts, technical names of them, but I mean there's a difference between being in your pharynx, in your vocal folds, right, in your vocal cords, and being above that and using air to convey that same feeling without wrecking your cords, without wrecking the folds. They say whispering is bad. And the reason being is, if I can remember correctly, when you whisper and you don't whisper with a lot of people don't whisper with breath behind it. They just kind of whisper because they're just trying to close up and bind their vocal folds to be quieter. That's wrong, because if you do that, then you're not letting air go through the folds, and that causes friction, and that friction is what causes the damage. And that's probably what happened to Brian Johnson, is the fact that he was doing that so much and not letting air go through the folds, that I mean he was creating the great sound, and maybe he was incredibly resonant naturally, but unfortunately you do that for too long of a period and you're wrecking yourself, because the friction is just digging in and grating it like a cheese grater, every night after night. So yeah, I mean that's why I say know your instrument, or know your range, because when you do the extremes, when you do the high highs or the low lows, even in music, I mean, right? I mean you had to know your range, whether you were a true soprano or an alto. Come on, you gotta admit it, and stuff like that. I mean don't do so low that you can't go, or too high that you can't do it without straining, because any of that stuff means that you're not using your air to support, and you're going to cause damage for sure.
I
Did
have
I
a
answer the
question
question?
on tips on how to remember what kind of voice that you've been doing for a character.
Oh, okay. Um, I would say the easiest way, well, I mean, we're going to get into the whole suggestions for practice, but I mean, one of the things that I usually say is make sure to record. If you have any way of recording yourself, whether it be the person recording the podcast or recording the video, whatever, go back and listen to that character, that session where you had the character that you liked the voice. Just listen to it, clip it if you can, and then just kind of have that in your back pocket, and then hell, stick it in a reel if you want, so at least this way it reminds you of how that character sounded. And use the 8 efforts slash all those textures and flavors that I included in the chart, because you can kind of make notes to yourself, right? Okay, so this sounded like a ringing voice with with age, a young ringing voice, and it was breathy, all the different things that would remind you somehow of what it sounded like, along with a recording if you have it. And barring that, try to remember how it felt. Like every voice, even if it's very close to your own, has a particular feel. When I do this particular voice, I know or I can feel where it is in my face and in my mouth, as opposed to when I'm doing my regular voice. A lot of us usually sit too low in our when we speak normally, as opposed to being like a little bit lighter and then like using breath support to sound a little bit more regular, I guess. But I mean, we tend to forget. We get lazy, right? We just kind of like sound the way we sound, just for because we just, you know, we're not thinking about it. But if you're doing a character voice, try to remember how it feels. Where was it in the mouth? Like what was I doing? Like, you know, am I holding myself like a little bit hunched? Am I straight up and down? Like, how does it feel in my body? That usually can help be a cue as well for helping remember a character voice, for sure. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, how to be consistent with the voice, because sometimes when you try to voice acting, and
Mhm.
then for a moment you just forget about this character, and then you can start producing another sound. So how to quickly get back to that previous character?
Are you saying that's like from a GM standpoint, like if you're voicing a bunch of NPCs or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Oh man. Um, it's hard, right? Because it's like you need some kind of cue for yourself. I mean, like you can do the 8 efforts, you can do that how it feels in your body, but usually I do some kind of I also try to have like some kind of physical cue to it, right? So let's see. And this is a very obvious thing, and I'm sorry that it is, but when I do my man in the sun mask, I always remember what I sound like doing him, because I do this with my hands, and it is a physical cue that this is where the voice lies. So I only do this when I do his voice, and that keeps me consistent. So that's another trick you can use. I mean, I don't know if it's a help like if you're doing like kind of regular characters. Um, I mean, like you can also kind of do like what is it? Habit quirks, I guess. Like say you're doing what was this thing? Bert. What was the name of the cutie in Sally No Face? Or Waitley Camera.
Oh,
Uh,
Periwinkle.
no, Bert. Oh God, the actor whose lover was missing. Anyway, he had a cute last name. It was hilarious. Anyway, like you could like say like he has a top hat, and every single time that you doff the hat, like it's your reminder that this is how he sounds. He's incredibly debonair and sophisticated, or maybe not, but he's an actor, so it is what it is. That sort of thing, right? So some kind of physical cue, some kind of mental cue, like like the writing down, like some qualities of the efforts or the textures that you can remind yourself how it sounded. The only other thing is like again, like having a recording or a clip of what that was, to be able to remind yourself real quickly of like if you're going to bring this character back, this is what these sounded like, and if you haven't brought the character back in so long that you don't remember, they may not remember either. So it's fine. You could just say, okay, so and so was entered back into the scene, and then you voice them, and then it'll be fine, right? So I mean, the other people may not even remember either, especially if it's been that long since you've brought them back. Um, yeah. But if you have some old tried and true favorites, try to remember what those guys sound like, or like have some sort of physical cue like a mask or something like that that you can use to signal what they to help you signal what they sound like. Yeah.
Your physical cues reminded me of something a friend showed me that was sort of a three-character villain, damsel in distress, hero, where you just need two nacho
Yes.
chips and you say you must pay the rent. But I can't pay the rent. You must pay the rent. I can't pay the rent. I'll pay the
I
rent.
love that. I love it. That is beautiful. Oh my God. For the voiceover coaches that I had used to make my demo reel, one of them was actually a voice actor, and she had some wonderful scripts, and I'm dying to find it, but I can't find it at the moment. But it is it's a duo, it's a duet, and both sides are very not bland, but very neutral. So you can interpret the lines any way you like, and you can switch off. So one of our warm-up exercises was to, like, I would take one person and she would take the other person, and we would just go through the lines and we would just interpret them, like, like right off the bat, like, like no thought to it at all. And then we would just do the lines. And then like right away we would just go back and I would do the other lines and then she would do the other lines. It's just to kind of like have that whole, like, okay, just don't think about it, just do it, and then come up with a character. And then you can also reinterpret the lines as you think the character should be, as opposed to how your partner did it, right? So again, a different exercise in how to make something up on the fly, and also interpret to what you think the character could be, and a differing emphasis of what the words could mean, since they were so neutral to begin with, right? So yeah, I love that. I love that trick, though. I should remember that, like, to try to to try to bring that in as an exercise. So maybe I'll add that to my packet tricks for sure.
I have one other question for you, but it might fit later.
Okay.
Are we going to talk about editing audio at all during this presentation?
I can. That was a question that I was going to leave for questions and answers because I wasn't
Okay.
sure whether we were going to have time for it. So
I will save it then.
yeah. All right. So exercises to try. If you have a pen or a pencil in front of you or near you, and then also let me since I have to pull up something of myself. Let me see if I can do this. Hold on. All right. You may want to try this with yourself on mute, just to practice this on your own if you want. But I'm going to go ahead and do this myself, so this way you guys can see how it goes, and then you can do this on your own, on mute, or on your own offline or whatever.
Mads, can
Yeah.
you unshare your screen so we can see what you're doing?
Absolutely. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
No
So
worries.
I'm just going to do the pen and pencil method that I have on the stop share. I'm on the share screen right now. So I'm going to stop share. All right. Great. All right. So what I'm doing is the pen and pencil method, and the trick is to keep your jaw relaxed throughout the whole thing, but just enough to be able to hold said pen or pencil between your lips. Okay, just watch me do it first. And then you're going to move your lips around your implement as you read something very short out loud, okay? And then I'll show you how to do it. Champion's Belt. We're here to help you defeat pain. At the end of your treatment, we invite you to take a photo with the Champion's Belt and tell us what getting back to health means to you, okay? So I wasn't death gripping it where you're going to see teeth marks in the pen or the pencil. So yeah, that's why you want to keep your jaw relaxed. And then I'm going to read it again. Champion's Belt. We're here to help you defeat pain. At the end of your treatment, we invite you to take a photo with the Champion's Belt and tell us what getting back to health means to you. This is an exercise to help you with enunciation/diction. All right. So if you feel like you're getting a little bit lazy with, like, your sound is getting muddied, or your diction is getting a little bit like lazy, then you want to try this to kind of like wake yourself up a little bit. And especially if you're having trouble like figuring out like where your mouth placement is, to make sure that your voice is coming through okay. You want to make sure that you try this to get your mouth moving. So you want to try it with the pen in and then try it with the pen out, just to give practice to your lips and your jaw to move around it. And just for your air, you want to make sure you're still breathing and you're aiming the sound above the pen or pencil. All right, not below it because it sounds like this. I heard to halt your defeat pain. At the end of your treatment, we invite you to take a photo. You can see how it's like gets muddied and gets stuck, all right? So that's why you want to aim above the pen or the pencil. All right? So if you guys want to try it, like you go ahead and like, go on, stay on mute and then give it a shot. Read something short, keeping your jaw relaxed, and then take the pen and pencil out and then read it again. Making sure you move your lips too when you do it.
That was fun.
If anything, I get a giggle out of it just because it's like, oh my God, it's like I have a jaw.
I
But
definitely
again,
noticed having to push the voice up
mhm,
over the pencil rather than, because my voice I think tends to sit really in the back of my throat and very
mhm.
kind of nasally,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is why I sound kind of like Minnie Mouse. But it was definitely, it
I don't think you
sounded different.
I
Yeah.
don't think you do, Amanda. I don't think you sound like Minnie Mouse at all. No,
Really? Oh,
seriously,
good.
you
I don't
don't.
want to sound like Minnie Mouse.
No, you don't. Absolutely not. But yeah, I mean, like this is a great way to kind of again, like kind of like wake yourself up to at least like moving your mouth a little bit and like getting your breath moving if you feel like you're getting a little muddy, a little bit like lazy and sitting too far back, right? So yeah, V is V is very very tricky. Although, I mean, like it's kind of fun because when you do something like this, it kind of shows you like what certain consonants like you really need to move your mouth for, and like you have to kind of work around it. But like sometimes it's kind of fun because it's like you can see exactly how much you can say without really moving your mouth at all. So a little bit good for ventriloquism. But not that I've ever tried, but I mean, it's kind of funny when you're like in a crowd and you don't necessarily want to be heard and you're just like next to somebody and just kind of like not moving your mouth at all. So, eh, a little thing to give a shot to. All right. So, also on that slide was something that I call start your engines warm up. So I'm going to show you this and I'm going to say you can give this a shot as well on mute if you'd like. Okay. So start your engines warm up is this. This is usually best lying flat on your back because you can get a little bit more air, a little bit more space in your body. But this can also be done sitting in a chair. So, I situate myself when I'm sitting in a chair like relatively straight up. And I have one of those stools that lets you like feel your abs and such. So it's like it's like a little bit of a balancing act for me. And then I'm going to get a deep breath. Then this is not a deep breath where I go up with my chest. No, 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 no. Like I think the deep breath goes in through my nose and into my belly, like over by my below my ribs and into where my belly button is. Okay, so like deep down in the diaphragm. I'm going to deep your breath, low in the belly, relax my lips, and then I'm going to blow the air out. This can be done with or without sound. All right, and what this does is get your lips flapping. You can tell like how relaxed your mouth is, and shows how much air you're able to sustain in a slow and steady pace. Okay, so just watch. So I can usually do that a lot longer if I'm laying down, but that's just an example. And that's with, let me see, hold on. You can do it with or without sound. So this is without sound, just flapping my lips. If I'm doing it with sound, I can do it with notes. It's like a, just play around with it if you want. But I mean, again, it's just like loosens you up. If it helps to sing notes through it to get your breath moving a little bit more, that's fine. But just give that a shot again, like just to kind of keep yourself relatively relaxed. Do the deep breath into the belly and see how long you can do it. See how far you can go.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing so much because this
I
is like
know.
I literally can't do that. I've been complaining to my partner's a speech pathologist, and he's been trying to show me how to move my lips or relax my lips in a specific way to make the blah, 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 blah thing happen. And
Oh wow.
that's why
Okay.
this is just hilarious
Oh,
to me.
okay. Give it a shot lying down. Have you tried it lying down? Try it lying down.
I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try that as soon as we end this. I'm
Okay,
trying
okay.
that.
All right. No, the only reason I say that is because like I think of it like this. Like I don't know if there's a like the cartoon, I don't know, there's a cartoon. I remember seeing a cartoon where like the character was asleep and you saw them breathe really deeply and then you saw the feather or the leaf blowing up above their mouth and their mouth was doing the little raspberry thing. And that's what I think of. Like, so I call it starting your engines warm up, but you could also think of it as like trying to keep the leaf or the feather blowing up in the air when you're doing that. So you have to keep your lips very loose to do it. Otherwise, you can't keep the feather or the leaf up, right? So just give it a shot. I mean, like again, these are just some exercises to try. You have a copy of my slides in the Discord chat, but I mean, like, yeah, just some things to help you with enunciation diction, like some loosening up, and also like some very minimal breathing, like kind of like aiming the breath as well as just kind of loosening up and then breathing deeply, right? So give those a shot, see what happens. All right. So suggestions for practice. I advocate recording yourself or getting the recordings of yourself and watching them. Okay. I know people get really ickified by like, oh, I don't want to watch myself. Oh my God. I can't tell you how long it was within our Shadow Society playthrough, which was 12 episodes, by the way, that I finally watched myself and go, holy shit, I was doing that the whole time? Crap. Like you really discover your vocal quirks or your physical quirks that I'm like, why the hell am I talking and I'm covering up my mouth all the goddamn time? Seriously, why? Don't do it. Just that's why you want to record yourself. You want to be able to hear what you sound like. One, for consistency, two, for any kind of weird quirks that you do vocally or physically. And, just to be able to see, like, are you conveying what you think you're conveying in the moment? Right? I mean, like, my character was built for like, kind of like stoicism slash like, oh my God, like grief and pathos, like in private. But was I doing that? I don't know. I mean, like the only way to find out was to actually watch. So again, try to see how you're doing. If you're not watching, how are you going to know? Because you can hear all the stars and wishes you want, but one, are you going to believe them? And two, are they catching everything that you're doing, right? Because you can only get so much from stars and wishes. It's a great practice, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think it's wonderful, but sometimes I think that I feel like I want to include sparkles every once in a while in my game. I was introduced to that when I was on the GMing horror panel for Open Hearth. Somebody mentioned doing sparkles in their game along with stars and wishes because sparkles are your opportunity to say something that you did that you thought you did great. And I'm like, oh, I want to do a sparkle about myself, because I think I did this one thing awesome. But anyway, but again, you need to recognize and be aware of those things that like, I did that great. Oh, I need to improve upon that, or oh, I didn't convey that at all, or whatever I wanted to do in that particular scene. Whether you're a GM, whether you're a character, whatever, doesn't matter. Like you just need to be able to see it to believe it, right? Know your instrument, know your range. Like I was saying, like what what is your high highs that you can do without straining? What is your low lows that you can do without hurting yourself? What are your emotional highs and lows that you can convey effectively without shutting yourself down? Because you can do all the emotions, but like I said, I'm an ugly crier with like the nasal clog and the throat like catching up and all this kind of stuff. I'm not gonna ugly cry for a scene where I'm gonna be really emotional. I'm gonna cry, but not so much that everything closes off and I can't speak. That's ineffective, right? So know what emotional highs and lows that you have so you don't go too far or too little. Okay.
Mads,
Know
do you
what
want
those
to
feel
share
like.
your screen again so
Oh,
we can
yes,
see
yes,
the
yes.
slide in the recording?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. So again, know your emotional highs and lows to know what those feel like and make sure that you're not
Oh,
going to go,
it's not sharing.
daggone it. There we go.
There we go.
Ah! So know your emotional highs and lows to make sure that you know what those are to go enough, but not too far. Okay. Listen for pops and hissing. Again, a good way to know is by hearing the recordings. Listen for pops and hissing and other mouth noises. Assess for changes in your equipment placement if you do hear these weird things that you're making. Or maybe, there's some kind like a lot of people I hear every time I hear like presentations go up in my day job, I'm like, oh my God, can you please just get some water or like get some green apples or something like that before you speak. Anyway, maybe you want to assess for changes in your equipment placement. Maybe like if you're hearing too many keyboard noises or like too much shifting on your desk or something like that, you need to move your microphone off of your desk and put them on a boom arm. Or maybe you need a pop filter or a windscreen or both. To be safe, I usually do both on my microphone. Or your technique needs to be improved, like where you make sure that certain conditions are met before you do something sustained. Otherwise, you're going to hear the mouth clicking, the smacks, or the hissing when you do sibilants in a particular way or what have you. And sometimes different words cause you to do some funky things when you speak. So you just know your limitations. It's fine. You just have to make adjustments for them, either with your technique or with your equipment. Some things can be changed and adjusted for. Read quotes or poems out loud. Uh, or even like the game text, right? I mean, like, you can read your playbook blurbs like, multiple times. You can read other people's playbook blurbs or whatever, try to convey the feelings behind those, or read the quotes in the side characters and try to convey different feelings and different drives from them. Anything that you can experiment and explore with different inflections and rhythms. Play, experiment. And then try standing versus sitting. I have a complete mess on my desk, and I admit this. But I do have a desk that somewhat stands if I need to. So especially if I'm doing a job, I will stand and I will adjust my boom arm to be able to make sure that I can stand when I do this. And then I will make sure that I stand to make sure I have the full breadth of my opening, my ribs, and my belly to be able to breathe properly and to have room to move if I'm caused to do any kind of physical thing for the job itself. So try standing versus sitting. Sometimes it works out differently, and you sound different too when you do it. Okay, when I say for funsies, the book test. All right, let me take off my screen from sharing again. You can try this on your own at some point offline, or if you have it available, you can do it now. So the book test is this, and I can't find the video that I found this in, so I apologize that it's not in the resources guide. But if you want to hear what you sound like without listening to a recording first, okay, this is interesting. I didn't know this until I saw this video. You take two books, like relatively big, like not 8.5 by 8.5 by 5s, but like something more like 8.5 by 11s. All right, and you put them. Let me see if I can do this correctly. Yeah, you put them in front of your ears. Okay. What this does is going to create this weird sound. The sound has to carry in a different way, has to move in a different way. So this way it gets to your ears like it will get to the actual recording equipment, right? So I'm talking and I'm speaking to you right now, and I'm going to put these books on the side, alongside of my head, in front of my ears, and now I can actually hear what I'm going to sound like on the recording when I do this. And when I'm doing my particular voices, I know that this is exactly how the recording is going to turn out. because I've tested this. So you're welcome to try this on while you're on mute. It sounds different. It really does. When you're hearing yourself without the books and with. It's really fun. So. It's pretty close. If it's not exactly the same, then it's pretty damn close. But it's definitely more correct than just hearing it without the books in the way, for sure. So. If you learned anything, you learned that, right? I mean, any questions?
That was unexpected to hear it like that. 'Cause
Uh-huh.
I mean, everybody, I sound so different on the microphone than I do in my own head.
Yep.
So putting the books up like that really did. It sounded more like how I hear myself.
Exactly. Right. Marshmallows would be worse.
Yeah,
You
I know
mentioned,
a lot of people that use marshmallows to avoid mouth noises, which is
like, do
weird.
they just pack them in their cheeks and leave them there?
They eat them. They eat them before they record.
I've not tried that. I mean, I know that voice people, voiceovers will do green apples or grapes, green grapes, to kind of create that like moist, but not so moist that it's like mwah, mwah, you know, like a lot of a lot of wet noises, you know, before a job or whatever. But I mean, again, it's just like just kind of keeping that right amount for the chamber to work, but not so much that you're like, "Mwah, mwah," you know, whatever. It's very strange. And like water can actually be, in some cases, detrimental because, like, you know, you definitely want to keep water near you for sure.
Mhm.
But I mean, like, again, too much could cause like some very some very strange noises, you know, on recording if done in a sustained environment if you're not
What
careful.
about
So.
what about coffee? Can you drink coffee while you're recording, or
You
is it?
can't. I do. I know I do, but it's not, I don't consider it as sustained where like you're actually doing a job. Like if you're actually doing a job for voice acting, I would avoid the caffeine like for a good day, just because I don't want the diuretic, the drying up effects of caffeine on my body as well as on my voice, right? I do notice that when I drink a lot of caffeine, I do like a a lot of coughs and harumphs on my recordings as well. But I'm willing to do that because I can cut that out. I'm the one editing my stuff, so I'm willing to do a little bit more work because it's like I'm the one who caused the problem in the first place. I get that. But if I'm doing a job for somebody else, oh hell no. Hell no. Green grapes, green apples, and no coffee for the day before. For sure. So yeah. Coffee is fine so long as you don't mind the work that comes afterwards. And you're not doing something that you're getting paid for. Yeah. So
A part of me wants to know if this, it feels like this could be tested. Like, is there something acidic in the green apples that is breaking apart saliva or something? Like, I
I
feel like,
think so. I mean, I think somebody has scientifically broken it up, but I don't have the article or whatever to back that up, unfortunately. I didn't do that much of a deep dive, unfortunately. I just know that from my voiceover training, and that's what they advise usually for doing this sort of thing, to make sure that you have them on hand. It finds it being very helpful for sure. Um, yeah. Brian, you do the experiment. I'll run the stats of it. Amanda, I love you. Oh my gosh. Statistician ahoy. Alrighty. Any other questions? I don't care how silly they are because we've done a lot of silly things in the past few minutes.
Yeah, those exercises with wine corks for pronunciation helps really, or is
Okay.
it just like exercises
For which?
for diction?
Oh,
So how?
yeah, again, like, you know, just to the pen pencil one is done
Mm-hmm.
for singing as well as for voice for you know, acting as well. So, I mean, it is a well-used exercise. And it's not something you have to do, it's just something to help practice, right? But again, you want to make sure that you have enough diction for whatever voices you're doing to make sure that you're clear and not muddy the sound. So, say you're practicing an otherworldly voice and you want to try to make sure that you're going to enunciate properly, you could conceivably try the pen pencil test and see how it turns out, right? You know, in that voice, and then see how well it turns out after you take the pen pencil out and see if you're still clear when you speak. So, yeah, could be a good thing to practice for sure. Again, play, experiment, explore, play. This is like, you know, very much the key of knowing your instrument very well, knowing how you sound very well, you know? Let's see what I got. All right. Playtime. Okay. So everybody can go on mute for a few minutes. You pull out a PC or like that you have already, or an NPC side character that you just love the short description of, or the quote that you have available, whatever you've pulled up. And like think about what vocal components, like from the 8 efforts or the qualities table that I've shown, and I'll throw those back up on the screen a little bit, as well as you've seen them in the Discord chat. Do you associate with this particular person? Like, what of those things can you use to help you convey this person? And read this description or quote in your own voice first, just regular, right? And then read it again using those qualities you've identified, voicing the character. So, I mean, like, you know, I don't have I'm asking you to do the exercise, but I don't have one pulled up at the moment. But yeah, just like go ahead and, you know, figure that particular quote out, and read in your own voice first. And then read it again using the qualities you've identified. And I'm going to take some water while everybody else is doing this. So I'm going to put myself on mute.
Mads, you can pause the recording if you want.
I can do this. Yes. Let me pause. All right, we're back, and everybody should have something that they'd like to read off. And I'm going to go ahead and do this first to give my example of, like, you know, what I'm planning on doing. So I found the description, or excuse me, the description and the quote for La Hortensia Fig, one of the pigs from that particular threat from the Between. Gee, big shock. So the description is: tall for a woman, smells of blood and sweetness, missing an arm. La Hortensia will do anything for her children. When the boys were young, she and them were trapped in a cave-in, and she fed them her arm rather than letting them starve. She prefers to lay traps rather than attacking directly: covered pits, falling or collapsing objects, fires. And here's the quote, and I'm going to read this in my regular voice first before I try to voice it. The most difficult part of preparing the meat is the rib cage. Even if I had 2 hands, cracking open the ribs would be a devil. I usually have to ask Obert or Patrick for help, but that's what's lovely about running a family business, isn't it? Everyone pitches in. Now, why don't you go ahead and crawl in the sack so I don't have to call one of the boys for help? So, for the most part, I was still doing some emphasis. I was still doing some changes to my voice, right? But this is how I would do it if I was going to voice her. The most difficult part of preparing the meat is the rib cage. Even if I had 2 hands, cracking open the ribs would be the devil. I usually have to ask Obert or Patrick for help. But that's what's lovely about running a family business, isn't it? Everyone pitches in. Now, why don't you go ahead and crawl in the sack so I don't have to call one of the boys for help? Who wants to go next?
I'm happy to dive in. Michael was talking last night about Squatch Your Step and Sasquatch Calls in the Woods, and I thought this just seems too good an opportunity to practice damaging my vocal cords.
Don't do that. Remember what I said, please.
No, but in that sense of guidance, like if you're gonna vocalize a Sasquatch, there are probably some things that can go wrong.
Oh.
So, I will try to do it in a non-damaging way, but certainly feel free to critique it and say, don't do this or change that or something. So the character here, Laszlo Pudding, lead singer of the math rock band I Understand and I Wish to Continue, with a trucker cap featuring a trout and the text, "Fish don't know I exist," covering long black hair. His jacket's covered in decorative pins and band patches. He drums his fingers on his thighs in odd time signatures. He really needs the prize money because his band's van is broken down. So in my voice, my first band was death metal, actually. So I learned how to sing with that Cookie Monster voice. I think that's what Bigfoot sounds like. I hope the judges agree, because if I win, I can get our van fixed and we can make our gig at Tick Tick Fest in Maine. And if I was to characterize this fellow and looking at your Laban techniques, Laban, how do you pronounce it? Laban?
I think it's Laban.
Laban, okay. The Laban techniques. I was thinking there's a way in this to kind of do like transition a glide into a thrust with a line of improvisation here. Have you ever seen somebody did a video where they took Tom Waits singing God's Away on Business, but it's just Cookie Monster?
Oh my God.
It is a stunning video. Somebody just smash cut all these pieces of Sesame Street with Cookie Monster, so it's Tom Waits' voice, but it looks like Cookie Monster singing God's Away on Business.
Oh my
And
God.
I think I'm gonna add that into this just a little bit.
Okay. All right. I'm here for it.
All right, so Laszlo Pudding. My first band was death metal, actually, so I learned how to sing with that Cookie Monster voice. God's away, God's away, God's away on business, business. I think that's what Bigfoot sounds like. I hope the judges agree, because if I win, I can get our van fixed and we can make our gig at Tick Tick Fest in Maine.
10 a 10. Absolutely. Oh my God. Amazing. Because the Mavens get to judge
Thank
this
you.
contest, right? Yep. Yeah. Amazing. Okay. Who's next? Oh my gosh.
I also was reading Squatch Your Step because Brian and I have the same brain. I was looking at Manhattan Marge Geely, a small town gal with a big city taste. She has a thick New York City accent. Chunky jewelry, starts most sentences with, well, when I lived in New York City, but only lived in New York City for 8 months and would love to go back, but rent is so expensive. She's been a judge at Bigfoot Days for the last few years and thinks Bellows is overrated. Owns a number of properties in Whitechapel. Now, I'm not going to, just before anyone is worried, I'm not really going to try a New York accent because I assume that she only lived there for 8 months. She doesn't actually have one. So
She
the
thinks she
quote-
has one. I'm
she
sure
thinks she
it's
has
fine.
one.
Yeah.
So I think I have one too. Don't worry about it. Quote in my own voice is, well, when I lived in New York City, we saw big hairy men all the time, honey. And believe me, you did not need to hoot anything to get their attention. And I don't have the Laban techniques up ahead of me or in front of me, but I'm thinking she would probably speak very quickly if she's trying to be more New York. I noticed that when I used to work in call centers, New York people sound like they're from New York. They talk very fast. They're in a rush. They don't really enunciate every single word. They're just like speeding through what they're doing. So I think she would probably have really tight breaths. You know, she would be sitting, her breaths would be up at the top of her chest like a smoker almost, and she would speak very fast, and she'd probably emphasize New York City. So I'm thinking it'd be something like, hold on, I have to think of how New York City accent. New York, I'm in New York. Okay. When I lived in New York City, we saw big hairy men all the time, honey. And believe me, you did not have to hoot anything to get their attention.
Oh, absolutely, honey. It's like you're almost there. You're almost there. Beautiful. Beautiful.
I feel like I'm in New York already.
Absolutely.
Or is that New Jersey? I don't think it matters.
It doesn't matter, especially when I'm tired and angry. It doesn't matter at all. He's still the armpit of the universe. It's great. It's fine. Okay, who's next? If nobody's next, it's fine. You don't have to participate if you don't want to. This is not voluntold. This is voluntary. It's cool.
I can try, but I don't know if it will be fine. Percy Underwood, an employee, young, pretty, dressed in a succession of different but over-the-top uniforms and costumes. Percy is a loyal boy who is currently employed as a waiter, housekeeper / general dog's body at the B&B. He longs to seek fame and fortune anywhere outside Wood Bay. but so far all his plans to leave have fallen through. Should I first read the normal quote and then try to impersonate him? Okay, a dead reporter, a room full of suspects, a patch of farmland with a dark history in a town with a dark underbelly. The game is afoot, ladies. This outfit, it's nothing, really just something I had lying around. A dead reporter, a room full of suspects, a patch of farmland with a dark history in a town with a dark underbelly. The game is afoot, ladies. This outfit? Oh, it's nothing, really just something I had lying around. I tried to be as British as possible, but I don't know.
No,
That's
there
okay.
was a distinct difference, and that's the important part, right? I mean, like you have your normal voice, and then you have distinct differences between the emphasis and then the the way that the way that you're doing the rhythm of the voice as well as the delivery. So, I mean, like in a way, you were almost doing a kind of like a flick, a little bit of a flick for Percy, and I think that that works for the character for sure. So yeah, I mean, like again, it's the acting of what you think the character is, and then conveying it differently from your normal self. Yeah. All right.
All right. I guess that leaves me. It's a bit late for me on the damage front. I blew up my voice last night doing a between game in a very crowded game store at work. But so I am reading the description and the quote for the man in the sun mask. Gold smoking jacket and yellow silk pants, soft slippers on his feet, a sun-shaped half mask obscuring his identity. The man in the sun mask claims to be a member of the royal family or some other important member of society, depending on when you ask him. He says he wears the mask to hide his identity, always speaking cryptically with an emphasis on the existence of other worlds and dimensions. Special rule. If a hunter removes the sun mask for any reason, they are immediately retired from play, and the keeper describes it. Quote my regular voice. There is a world beyond this one, you know. It's like our own world. Is, in fact, our world, but impossibly ancient. It's a world where the sun is new and where old spirits and old gods play and make war with each other. I have seen it with all my eyes. It is magnificent and terrible and bloody and every other awful, wonderful thing you can imagine. There is a world beyond this one, you know. It is like our world, is in fact our world, but impossibly ancient. It is a world where the sun is new and where old spirits and old gods play and make war with each other. I have seen it with all my eyes. It is magnificent and terrible and bloody and every other awful, wonderful thing you can imagine.
Good. Yeah.
And the voice I was aiming for with that is we don't have any recordings of this because he died in 1900, but the way that I have read Oscar Wilde's voice described, this very like sonorous,
Yeah.
slow but lyrical way of speaking. This way of speaking that is quiet but demands your attention.
Yeah. I heard a glide to your voice, like when you were trying to embody the men in the sun mask, and I heard that like come through as different from your own when you read it regular. So yeah, I think it was coming across. I mean,
thank
so
you.
if it was more Oscar Wilde, I don't know because I haven't heard Oscar Wilde, but
There are no extant recordings of him, so it's just based
yeah.
on things I have heard him described.
All right, awesome.
I
But
like how
yeah.
your voice, when you hit the word wonderful, it had like a little hint of menace. It was nice. It was
Yeah.
a good uplift, but
Yeah.
with a little wickedness to it.
Yeah, the emphasis was good. I mean, like I liked the little the pointed emphases on there, which works very well with the glide for sure because you're being direct, um, especially for certain things. So yeah, I mean, like again, like taking these little things that you can base it on, and then like pulling together other aspects, other flavors, other textures, and then making them work for you within the aspects of the technique. Um, And that's pretty much what I got for making the, voice acting technique and then applying it to your games and to your characters. So, um, any other questions regarding that before I open it up to anything else having to do with voice acting? No? Okay. So, let me just share my screen really quick. I just wanted to show you what else I got on my screen. For the okay, so we're back at the tables. Pardon. I should probably practice playtime. Any questions? Okay, and then so we got my where to find me on my on my slide. My Discord, my YouTube, my Blue Sky, and my itch page. Gee, it's all saying Madeline Colley. Why am I not surprised? And then the acting resources, some of the things that I mentioned today, and some of the places where I've gathered some information. The airflow exercises are actually from ear, nose, and throat patient information, patient handout. Speech, language, and pathology, are obviously good resources for working on airflow. So, it's like something to take a look at for some basic exercises to give a shot to you and then kind of help increase, breathing facility. Script library, you can find off of any vocal vocal academy / association, but this one is in particular I belonged to them for for a little bit when I was doing some voice acting some semi-professionally, and they have a good script library for some basic information, to see what the video game and animation scripts look like, but also scripts for narration or for some telework if you're interested in looking at some of those. And then, of course, an article about the 8 efforts for Laban movements. Okay. So, yeah. And then, thank you. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing for a second as we open it up to any other questions that you guys would like to do. So, well, we have some time. Or if not, we end early.
Yeah. I have 2 questions. Oh, go ahead, Archie. Oh, I thought I
No,
heard someone else. Okay.
I was thinking you were saying.
Okay. In editing audio,
Mhm.
I say the word way too much. That kind of placeholder of it's my horrible habit. I can spot the waveform in the audio files, and I'm currently manually splitting the clip, dropping the volume or deleting it. Is there any software that I can just sort of hunt for that waveform and drop its volume out? Because it would save me so much time.
I know there's a way to do it. I have not tried it because it's I am such a control freak, at least because I do it minimally or I don't notice it as much, that I'm not willing to do that deep of an edit, because what I'm afraid of is every single time that I do an or I spot my players doing an or an or something like that, then I'm afraid that it's going to cut them off at a weird moment, because since I depend on video, I feel like some of those moments we miss some of the audience reaction kind of thing. So I'm very careful about how I splice things.
Yeah.
I know that with certain DAWs that they have what do they call them? Macros that they develop where you can pick out you can make it recognize the waveform and then pick it out and then just pull all those waveforms out completely. I don't know particularly how to do that, but I can give you a resource for an online person who probably knows a particular DAW well enough to do it. What DAW do you use for it?
I don't know what DAW means. Is that an
Okay,
acronym?
sorry, Digital Audio Workstation. So the particular software that you're using to edit, if you're doing video editing, I use Final Cut Pro because I have a Mac. If you're doing audio editing, it could be something like Reaper, or it could be Audacity, it could be Pro Tools or DaVinci Resolve, or what's the other one that people use? It's escaping me at the moment. Ableton, I think. But anyway, whatever you use, there's probably video from somebody who's much more versed in it than I am that could say, here's the waveform, here's the macro to make the thing recognize it, and then pull it out, and then you won't be able you you won't have to worry about like, going manually in and then recognizing each one of those.
Mhm.
So,
I might also suggest that tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern time, Rev Deshane is doing a producing podcasts talk for Sprigs and Kindling online writing retreat, and he does all of the editing for the Crit Show. So he would know how to do that too. But I'm going to imagine that what he's going to say is try to cut out the ums before they get recorded.
Oh, for
Exactly.
sure. Believe me.
oh yeah, for
There's
sure.
a-
Harder to do than to say.
Yeah.
There's a thing I've just been starting to try. It's the stupidest thing in the world, and we'll see if it works. I used to chew my fingernails, and somebody gave me the advice to just put a plain rubber band on my wrist.
Snap.
And if I
everything.
caught myself chewing, just a little snap, not like hard, just pop,
Yeah.
like a little. Don't do that, bad boy. And I want to try that with ums. If I'm talking and I say it, just to do a little thing and
Isn't
see
that what
if
they
I
do
can.
at Toastmasters?
I don't know. I have no
I
idea.
don't know.
If you say everyone like claps or
Kisses at you.
something. Yeah, or
oh,
kisses.
God.
I should
or
have
throw
my
things.
students do that. Have my students like
Yeah.
throw an eraser at me or something. I don't know. I would, and I just did it. There
you
we
just
go.
did it. You just did
Yeah.
it. And the thing is, it's insidious. It is a very insidious syllable because we don't like dead word. We don't like dead air, right? And it's impossible to catch yourself unless one, you rewatch yourself and hear the recordings and notice that you're doing it a lot and when it happens. And sometimes people will use other words to substitute for so there's not just that as a filler word. But I noticed that certain players do have as their like whatever, and it's almost rhythmic when they do it, and I'm just okay, yeah. And again, I have my own filler words, but everybody does, and it's fine. But we either have to get used to those and be willing to cut those out, or get used to dead air. So if you hear me, like, on whatever, with a lot of pausing or a lot of like stops, it's because I am preventing myself consciously from doing a lot of umming. And that's where it sounds like I am thinking really hard because I'm not willing to do, very much of the ums and uhs and likes if I can help it. But sometimes it just comes out.
I
So
debated over trying to teach myself to do a hand gesture. Like if I hold a finger up, does that have the same placeholder effect, even if I don't speak, if I do that?
yeah.
I wanted to ask one other question about I worked once with somebody using Riverside FM, so we had separate audio files for every person in the meeting that could be edited separately. Oh, thanks, Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you
Amanda,
so
do you want to say
much.
something before you go?
Oh yeah, that would be wonderful. I have to tick off because I have another thing I have to run in just a little bit. But Mads, this was fantastic. This was so great. There's so many really good tips in not just for voice acting, but for thinking about how to write characters as well. You can incorporate these things so that when keepers are running games, they have little ticks, little habits, little things to introduce into characters so that the keeper, the keepers have something to run with. And I think that's really, really useful for a lot of different creatives. So yeah, thank you so much. I can't wait to watch the next the next iteration of this that's happening later.
And we'll see. We'll see how it changes. Awesome. Thank you so much again for holding this event, Amanda. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Bye.
See ya.
The only other question I wanted to ask was if you recommend recording with something like Riverside FM where you can have separate audio tracks for every person on the call so you can edit them separately.
Okay. So I did I started a podcast once and I only had one episode, which was actually split up into two episodes because I did not want long episodes to start. And I did do the whole split thing, the whole split audio. But Zoom was able to do that. If you have a paid account with Zoom, they will split the audio for you. I mean, and it's fine. And I have tried Riverside, I guess in its infancy. Actually, when I first started with Gauntlet and my Discord server, and it didn't work out so well. And I can't tell whether it was because there was a technical difficulty, because what they do is while they say it's useful because, they don't have something that you have to worry about in the cloud. So, I mean, everything is like, recorded locally and then it gets sent over to them. So less chance for it to drop or whatever. it's very difficult if the computer, if the user has some sort of stopgap at their end, and then they have to try and grab it, and then they have to get it like resolved to send over to Riverside, and it's just one whole piece of nonsense. So I did not like using Riverside. I mean, I wanted to, I really did, but I didn't like it. And I think there's also a limitation where it only goes up to 2 hours. My games run 3 hours, all right? And if you stop it, if you even pause it, I don't know if they've changed this. If you even pause it, you can't pause it. You have to start up a whole new recording. Well, that's useless. I mean, I did for what I want to do. I mean, like, I need a continuous recording. I mean, regardless, you know, pause and then keep going. No, yeah. I have worked with the multi-tracks, and it's really useful. I have, like, you know, maneuvered things a little bit so I can hear tracks, like, you know, I can hear people better, so because I can maneuver tracks so they're not like muddied on top of each other, and it's really great. So I like it when I can get to do that. But in my current state, since it's only me editing and I'm doing the video, I just work with the video and the audio that's underneath. I don't try to work too much with the audio tracks underneath because, one, it's too much load for my system, and it's just too hard because it won't match up with the video. That's the problem. I mean, like, with audio, you can get away with it because you can move them any way you like to make sure that it's clear. But with video along with the audio, I don't do a lot of cuts where I go back and forth between person and then the group and person and the group. So it doesn't work for me. And like, that's a lot of labor intensive work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would love to do it. Believe me, I would love to, because that to me is like, that's next level type of stuff. But until I can get rid of my day job and I get paid to do that, then unfortunately. So, yeah. Any other questions whatsoever? Yeah? No? Okay. Alrighty. Thank you all for coming today. I appreciate your time and attention. You have a copy of my slides through the Discord chat. I will go ahead and I'll see if I have time. Probably not. I'll probably just, like, you know, once this converts, I'll probably just like throw it up on my YouTube channel and then have Amanda link it to Sprigs and Kindling. But I thank you very much for, again, your time and attention today. And it's been great. It's been fun. I hope you had some fun too and learned a little bit of something that you can take away for your games. So,
Yeah,
great.
thank you. It was extremely useful.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. It was amazing.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.